ਯੂਨੀਅਨ ਡਿਫੈਂਸ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਅਨੀਤਾ ਆਨੰਦ ਜੀ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਸਰੀ 'ਚ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਇੱਥੇ ਮੰਦਿਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਕਸ਼ਮੀ ਨਾਰਾਇਣ ਟੈਂਪਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਰੱਖੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ। ਲਕਸ਼ਮੀ ਨਾਰਾਇਣ ਟੈਂਪਲ ਦੇ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮੈਨੇਜਮੈਂਟ ਕਮੇਟੀ, ਉਹਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਸਤੀਸ਼ ਕੁਮਾਰ ਜੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਨੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਸਤੀਸ਼ ਕੁਮਾਰ ਜੀ, ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਕਿਸ ਪਰਪਸ ਨਾਲ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ?
ਅੱਛਾ, ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਜੀ, ਜਿਸ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਵੀ ਇੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਲਿਬਰਲ ਦੀ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਜੀ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਨੀਤਾ ਆਨੰਦ ਜੀ, ਡਿਫੈਂਸ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਇਹ। ਅਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਲੀਡਰ ਹਰ ਵੇਲੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ, ਉਹ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਹਰ ਵੇਲੇ ਮਿਲਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ। ਵੈਸੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਕੋਈ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ, ਵੈਸੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ ਦੇ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਦੇ ਓਪੀਨੀਅਨ ਲੈਣ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ।
ਰਸ਼ੀਆ ਯੂਕਰੇਨ war, it's going to be not over so quickly. So how much in terms of money the Canadian are going to cost any further, and how much it will, because they are already through a deep financial crisis.
That's right. We have committed already $600 million in military aid, and recently the Prime Minister committed another $500 million for military aid, bringing our total to over $1 billion in military aid. But at the same time, our government is making sure that we are addressing affordable housing, that we are helping the most vulnerable in our society with, for example, benefits for children to have dental care, and to make sure that our seniors are well off. So we are making sure that we are investing in Canadians and vulnerable Canadians, including affordable housing, at the same time as assisting Ukraine in its fight for stability and sovereignty.
No, but people are not satisfied with all this, paying so much attention to in terms of financial aid. So how do you justify all this, sending so much financial aid?
I'll explain that the illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia is an impact on our own security, because the democracy of a country, Ukraine, is at stake. And if we don't support them, then where will it end? That's the most important thing. Ukraine is fighting for its stability and sovereignty so that we don't have to. And that is a tribute to the rules-based international order, and it is the reason why we will keep on supporting NATO as well as the principles of NATO.
About the Liberal government giving a free hand to the element who wants to break India, and letting them those activities happen, and Canadian government is not doing anything at all, and we have a big question that needs to be addressed by the Liberal government, and which since last, I would say, 2 terms, it is increasing day by day and giving them a free hand, and this Canadian soil is being used to break up the India, and that's not acceptable.
I will say, and I've said this already publicly, that our country and our leader believes in the territorial integrity of India and all countries. That's undeniable. This is what we're fighting for in other areas every single day, is territorial integrity of countries. That is sacred. And in addition, the right to protest within the bounds of the law, that is also something that we permit in this country. Protest within the bounds of the law is acceptable, and it should not invade what would be illegal, and territorial integrity is inviolable.
I might say that time has come to show Indian integrity, Indian bravery throughout the world. Look what happened in England. And now, after Harjeet Singh, you have shown you ladies can do something. We are proud of you, my child.
I'm Sandeep Jassal. I happen to be having my background in Indian system of medicine and a postgraduate in preventive and promotive healthcare. One thing which I would like to highlight, although it is your department is defense, but having defense against disease is also one sort of defense which we need to have, for which I would like your inputs on healthcare system over here, because people have to wait for their turns, their appointments, and so much can be done, especially in prevention of disease. The other thing is the very valid point of connecting Punjab with Canada directly would be a wonderful.
Inflation is a big question these days. People, they are not able to buy groceries. They're not able to buy gas, though gas has come a little bit down. The income is not enough. Expenses are more. Uh, Nobody knows what to do. Does the government has any answer what to do, what not to do? The second is affordable housing is not out there. People does not make enough money. Interest rates are going up. A lot of mortgage brokers are sitting here, so I don't know what's going to happen. So if government has planned to freeze the interest rates or bring the interest rates down, or, okay, freeze or decrease? All right, thank you. All right, here you go. This is a scary part that we are hearing a lot of stories that a lot of people they are going to be they are not able to pay the payments and they are going to leave the houses very soon. A lot of bankruptcies are coming, and this is coming within few months. So I don't know the government of Canada has any plan or not. Health system is a big question. There are long lineups in hospital, especially in Surrey. The population is increasing. 1,500 people every month. One hospital, a lot of people, not enough service. So I don't know what can be done or not. Sorry.
Pressure on the
Yeah, there is definitely. The another is lot of the Hindu community. They feel that they do not get enough representation. Though I always counter question them that do you get involved in any party? Do you get involved in any organization or not? But still, I know we need to do some work from our side. But again, government, they know the numbers, they know the people, they know the caliber, they know the education that we have, the most peaceful community. Last couple of months ago, I was talking to the chief of Surrey Police in Surrey, and he was telling me that the Hindu youth involved in the crime is only 0.1%. That's great. So, which is a big, proud moment for our Hindu families. And he was asking me, "What are you guys doing? Like, how does it happen?" I said, "It's God's grace, or maybe the way we are raised." So this is the same, style that we are passing to our children. So we are proud. So if we are so good, why we are not able to get more representation in government at every level?
Say a word about my parents, and I think we as Indian families and our parents and the lessons our parents taught us are really what keeps us motivated and going. And many of you are obviously our parents and grandparents here, so you know the lessons that you have taught yourselves, your families. And everything we do, at least everything I do, is really in my parents' name. It's everything that they taught me. Everything that they wanted for us is what we are doing for them. And so it is something that now that I have no parents with me any longer, that I'm trying every day to make sure that I do the right thing for them. And what they taught us, as I think you were saying, was that you must do whatever you can to serve your community. And that was every day the lesson that they taught us. And we did, even though we grew up in rural Nova Scotia, we had our own puja every day in our home. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about Hinduism, that you don't have to be in the church. You can light your diya, you can say your prayer wherever you are. And so my parents were devout followers of the Bhagavad Gita, and in particular, chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. And that chapter, as you know, says that you work as hard as you can, but you don't work for a reward. There's nothing about your work that should be aimed to get you something. The religious action is the work itself. And so that was kind of what we grew up with every day. And, saying the Gayatri Mantra and teaching that to our children. So I wanted to just mention a few things, first of all, about what it was like to be elected in 2019 in the esteemed footsteps of Sukh and Randeep and an incredible group of members of parliament who welcomed me and all the other newcomers with open arms. So I haven't gone a day without thinking how grateful I am to be in your company. And all those kind
Likewise,
words
we
are
are too.
right back at you. Thank you for being such great colleagues every day. And thank you to you all for welcoming me and having faith in me. You know, I think both Randeep and Sukh can attest, when you're in the House of Commons and there's lots of banter and questions going back and forth, sometimes you say to yourself, is this the right place for me? And then you say to yourself, if I'm able to do something for my community, then this is the right place for me. And so that's when I hear all of you speaking about what you want for our country and our countries and how we can all work together, regardless of ethnicity, culture, and background and religion. That's to me the most important thing, that we say we all want, in this case, deeper ties between Canada and India. How can we achieve those ties, those deeper ties together? And that is exactly what we're trying to do in the Indo-Pacific strategy. And in particular, I always say to my team, remember, it's the Indo-Pacific strategy, so focus on the Indo. And in particular, we know that India is becoming one of the world's most populous countries. We know that there are economic opportunities for Canadian businesses there. And India itself is looking to expand its commercial relationships in energy and in food and technology. And all of these are areas of Canada's strength also. So there is a deep ability for us, with the people in this room, as you were saying, to draw deeper and deeper connections. And that's what our Indo-Pacific strategy aims to do. Our Indo-Pacific strategy aims to do. And in particular, we are going to conclude an early progress trade agreement. We are going to eventually conclude a comprehensive economic partnership agreement. So this is work that Minister Mary Ng is continuing in her portfolio. She's doing fantastic work. We're building the visa processing capacity in New Delhi and Chandigarh. We're supporting academic, educational, youth and research exchanges, and we're accelerating our cooperation in fighting climate change, which we know is important in both countries. In fact, we're also going to send Team Canada trade missions to India in priority areas like renewable energy. So there is a lot of work on the table in the Indo-Pacific strategy. But just to reiterate and underline how important this is for our two countries, I'll give you some stats between Canada and India. Trade in goods between our two countries in 2021, $4.6 billion in imports, $3 billion in exports. Trade in services, last year, $2.4 billion in imports, $4.4 billion in exports. Over 650,000 students from India studied in Canada from 2012 to 2021, and 1 in 5 recent immigrants to Canada were born in India. That is incredible. That's incredible. Now 1 in 3, Sukh says. So all that to say that the India-Canada relationship is so important to continued economic growth for our country. So everything that each of you is doing helps to further that relationship. And I thank you for your efforts to make sure that that relationship stays strong. And then I will just say there were some questions on inflation and the like. And first I'll ask my colleagues if they want to take those questions. If not, I'll be happy to.
You're more than welcome to.
Well, let's just say that we have a fall economic statement that came out that really sets the course for us in terms of affordable housing and in terms of investing in the economy, in terms of affordable housing as well as vulnerable Canadians. seniors, the old age security, 75, and a one-time payment as well to vulnerable Canadians of $500. We are also creating a new quarterly Canada Workers benefit. We are also making sure that we have a tax-free first home savings account. That's for those Canadians who are having trouble affording their first home. I'm not sure if the real estate agents in the room know that part of our platform, but that's an important aspect for first-time home buyers. And we also are making sure that we have something like a TFSA operating for first home buyers. And that's going to be a tax-free in and a tax-free out account for those who want to invest in an account for their first home. And that's going to begin in mid-2023. I have a lot more to say on those types of economic approaches and options that we're putting on the table for Canadians. But I'm going to make sure that your members of parliament get that information to you. But we are definitely making sure, this is what is the difference between our party and the opposition, is that we see investing in vulnerable Canadians, whether it is seniors, whether it is children who need dental, whether it is the elderly, whether it is those who are seeking to buy their first home. We see that as investing in Canadians so that we can continue to ensure that they're supported as we go through economic hard times. Every time those options have been on the table, the opposition has voted against those initiatives brought forward by our government. That's just the difference between the two parties. And I think it does speak to the approach that we take. And I'll say, just to close, a lot of you were saying, how do we get more people involved? How do we have more South Asians in leadership positions? I think that's a question we all want to tackle. Sukh and Randeep and I want to see more South Asians, not just in the House of Commons, but in institutions across our country. The simple answer is, and I think somebody said it over there, we have to put our names forward. And we have to, how do we do that? We have to show our kids that there's a possibility of you getting elected if you put your name forward. That's the key thing about running. You put your name forward, and yes, you may lose, but you also may win. And that's the calculation that we all take when we run and we put our name on the ballot. Now, it's not easy, but very few things in life worth anything are easy. And I think that's what we have to say to our kids, and my kids included. I have 4 children. And all of them have said they're not running for political office, so there's no concern there. But I will say that if we want a diverse leadership, whether it's in Ottawa, whether it's in our provinces, whether it's in hospitals, universities, public or private sector, we have to show our children in our community that it is possible to get elected and it is possible to be appointed to those positions. And how do we do that? We stand up and we try to be the best leaders we can ourselves in our own communities. Even when it's hard, we say we'll try our best. And that's what I do every day, and I think that's what Sukh and Randeep do every day as well. So I will stop there, and if there are any other questions, happy to take them.
So namaste to everyone, and thank you for having us. Sukh and I are very proud of the Hindu community here in Surrey. We have probably one of the most hardworking communities here, and we always work with them, and the relationships with the Mandir and all the other interfaith organizations here is exceptional. So I don't have to say that your community is amazing. Mr. Handa takes care of seniors and all their needs, from their medical needs to their, like you said, financial literacy, computer literacy. Regular classes are held here, so we're very, very fortunate that this institute, led by Satish ji and his whole team, does an excellent job in conveying what is more than just puja and prayer, but also as a social center for everyone here, and that's very important. I want to really tell you, I think Miss Anita Anand, Minister Anand, is probably the epitome example of what an immigrant family should be like. You've heard both her parents are doctors, medical doctors, went to a place pretty far out, Nova Scotia. Not many Indians there, but a lot of educated Indians were immigrated there initially because of the shortage for doctors and teachers. She became, I know my friend Vinay has already introduced her, but she's been to 4 of the best universities in the world, Yale, Queen's, University of Toronto, Oxford. She taught me at Queen's University when I was going as a lawyer, so I remembered her from there. And you're very correct, she knows how to make MPs, so she's taught them very well, so I really am honored that. But she's also handled files very well. Somebody mentioned on the procurement file, the hardest file she got was that. I think defense is probably easier in a way. We were in a pandemic and nobody knew what to happen. And what you don't know is that she's the only minister in the world that was able to procure 8 vaccines per person for every one of us. We were the only people in the world that were sacred. It was all because of her. And if you saw that, other than about 3 weeks in February, where the manufacturers had asked for, just because of the demand that we had and the guarantees that they had promised for a 3-week break to kind of get the vaccines rolling right away, we had the most vaccines, the fastest vaccines, the best vaccines anywhere in the world. And that's why we had the lowest COVID deaths of virtually any country in the G20. I think other than maybe Israel, we had pretty much the lowest. If we had the same rate as the US, just so you should know, based pro rata, not by population, but pro rata, we would have had 70,000 more deaths. And a lot of that is contributed to Miss Anand, who's our minister, who procured those in a rightful time. And ever since she's done the job as Minister of Defense, she's also brought a lot of grace to that institute, corrected a lot of wrongs, and is working and striving to correct those governance issues that we've had systemically as a problem in our army for a long time. And I think some things that you brought up about recognizing faith, so we've been very lucky since forming government in 2015. I can tell you, Parliament, there's never a week where a different culture, a different faith is not celebrated. Diwali is celebrated by Hindus and Sikhs alike in Parliament and the Parliament grounds for that. Sikh Heritage Month was brought by Sukh. We celebrate Vaisakhi there. So you celebrate Hindu days, you celebrate Sikh events, you Christian events, Muslim events in our Parliament. There's yoga done on the Hill. If you ever want to see the largest yoga ever done in Canada, it's on Parliament Hill on every Wednesdays in the summer months from May all the way to the end of August, early of September. They didn't happen the last 2 years, but thousands of people for free come on our lawns and attend yoga classes. This is what a parliament, an open parliament, is all about, and those are the type of things that are being celebrated. And you can rest assured with Minister of Defense Anita Anand that even in the military, you'll see where there's religiously focused, whether chaplains or priests or ceremonies, they will be done in a culturally appropriate way. So I don't want to take too much time because we took a lot of time just introducing. So I wanted to say a few words to welcome our wonderful minister and my old professor to Surrey. Thank you.
Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, good evening to everyone. First of all, many of you I have worked over the past 3 decades, and you've been wonderful, been a family to me, and I always appreciate the work that you do in our community to make our society a better society, to make our country a better country. And particularly when it comes to Mandir, when it comes to President Satish Kumar, once Mr. Goyal and Ms. Satish Kumar, when they took over the management of this Mandir, the total change. And I have seen, there were fights, and Mandir was locked in the earlier days. When they came in fact, they are the ones who made this a perfect example. The religious place should be not only from a religious perspective, when it comes to seniors, Mr. Handa can vouch, and when it comes to seniors or bringing Sikh community together, they have worked very, very hard. So kudos to you, Mr. President, and your team for doing a great work over the past many, many years. I'm not a very diplomatic person. You know that I'm a pretty straight shooter. I tell you, I was supposed to be in Ottawa today. But I tell you, when I found out that Minister Anand is coming to town, I couldn't resist. I had to cancel. In fact, people saw me booking my seat. I just got a seat going to Ottawa tonight. And the reason is, Randeep has talked about her as a minister. Of course, a very successful minister, getting us through the COVID, and now being a defense minister, we are very, very proud of her achievements, whether it's as a professional career, whether it is as a minister, or as a member of parliament. But I can talk to you from a personal perspective. Once you come to know Anita, it's a total different perspective, right? I was a little reluctant in the beginning days. I thought Anita is a very contained individual. But I tell you, once I developed that relationship, and one word that she said to me, walking through, she said, "So we are friends for life." It won my heart, and she is a real friend. In terms when it comes to as a person, and Anita, there's no words, that can carry that relationship forward, and I'm sure community today you will feel very proud as well having her here as a minister. A few months. Few months back, Minister Kamal Khera was here to have a similar roundtable. We will time to time continue to bring ministers here, of course, so we can have a conversation. And I'm sure Anita will take the message to Ottawa, and we will be there to support her in her deliberations. So, welcome, Minister Anand, and of course, as a friend, Anita.